Welcome back to another episode of 5-5 Sports. I'm your host, Evan Rootenberg, and alongside me once again is Matthew Choi and Darya Amirshahi. Thank you guys both so much for joining me once again.
Yeah, thank you for having me once again.
We have Raptors talk. They have won 2 games straight against the Los Angeles Lakers and the Miami Heat. 2 excellent performances. We'll break down both of those games. We'll talk about the NHL playoffs, what's been going on outside of the Toronto Maple Leafs, because a lot of exciting hockey has been played. And finally, we'll talk a little bit about the MLB, and not much to say about that other than the fact that it has been a massive screw up on everyone's part. But we'll break down what's been going on over there. But we will start with the Toronto Raptors. 2 excellent performances right out of the restart, beating the Los Angeles Lakers. It was an impressive game for the Toronto Raptors, and outside of Kyle Lowry, as he stole the show, who was the most impressive Raptor for you?
I think a player that we should mention for the Lakers was Anunoby. I think he played an incredible game, very high shooting percentage, and I think he's kind of, although not to the same level, he's kind of filling in that role that we've been missing when Kawhi left. He's been kind of like stepping up and like kind of trying to provide more talent to where we've lost it.
Yeah, that was gonna be my player, to be honest. OG Anunoby. I'll mention him more against the Lakers. Miami he had a bit of an off shooting night, but just look at the stats from OG. Was it Saturday night against the Lakers? 8 for 9 shooting, hitting every 3 that he saw, and his defensive work against LeBron was one of the best performances I've seen out of OG. I think probably in his career. I think that has to be the number one performance in a Raptors jersey for sure. He just locked down LeBron, and to play like that after lockdown, with not too much game action or intense real NBA action. It was just really impressive to see the work that OG did. But it was a team effort because Anthony Davis was also shut down. I think he was held to, 13 points, if I'm not mistaken? If someone could just fact check that. But Anthony Davis in the first half, only 2 points. And if you're shutting down LeBron and Anthony Davis, we talked about this last week, who is going to beat you if not for LeBron and AD? And obviously in the playoffs, you're not going to have superstars like that perform as poorly as they did. But that's what the Raptors defense does to you. A rival NBA exec said even last week, the Raptors defense is so good that they throw so many things at you. You just don't know what's coming. And the fact that Nick Nurse has said that we're not even showing our best sets and our best defensive looks, they're saving that all for the playoffs. And I have no reason to doubt Nick Nurse. Everything that he's done and everything that he said has turned out to be true. So I have no reason to doubt him at this point. And I said last week that I thought Milwaukee was going to beat the Raptors in 6 just because I have that X factor in Giannis. I'm going to change that to I think it's going to go 7 games. The Raptors keep games really close, high-intensity basketball. They'll find their shot, but the fact is their defense will always keep them in games. Defense wins championships, and it's going to be hard if they end up playing Milwaukee. It's going to be a grind of a series, but it's going to be a lot better than I thought. I think I almost underestimated Toronto in a sense, which is kind of, hard for me to believe after they won an NBA championship. My logic was just, without Kawhi, Giannis has gotten better. I just think they had that edge, but it was never me doubting the Raptors' ability. The way they've managed to deal with losing Kawhi, and they've gotten better as a team and as a unit, speaks volumes about the team, speaks volumes about Nick Nurse. And if they end up playing Milwaukee, I think it's going to be one hell of a series that I think is going to go the distance at this point, because the Raptors have shown me nothing else but the fact that they're going to give everything in every single game, and it's going to come down to the wire no matter what.
Yeah, I think you're completely right. I think the Raptors defense have proven time and time again that they'll step up when they need to. So against a team like Milwaukee and against a player like Giannis, the players on Raptors can step up to try to shut them down to an extent.
The only reason I kind of just have Milwaukee, I think they're the best team in the league. I think the Raptors are 3 after the Clippers. But the truth is the Clippers just haven't played that much together. And when I say they, I mean Kawhi and Paul George. Paul George has looked terrific since the restart. He's hitting everything he won't miss. But come playoff time, anything can happen. There's a lot of good teams in the NBA, and there's a lot that we really don't know about. And there's just little things that will impact games come playoff time. Playoff time is going to be even closer basketball. If you think these games are good, which they are, I think the NBA has gone spot on. I think most of the games have been fantastic to watch. But come playoff time, I think we're just all guessing at this point. Anyone could win. The Lakers are still going to be a great team. Raptors are showing that they're going to be a threat no matter what. Milwaukee is great. Even Boston. Boston, when they played Milwaukee the first night, it was a close game. That was with Jason Tatum having a really poor shooting night. So you're not going to see Jason Tatum have nights like that very often. He recovered. I think, who was it against?
Portland.
It was against Portland. That's right. So there's just a lot of good teams. The Clippers, Denver is going to be a great team. You have Utah in the West. Houston proving that they're going to be a threat after they beat Milwaukee. There's just so much that could happen. And in a 7-game series, it's all to play for. And there's a lot of NBA teams that I think believe they can win. And that's the first, I think that's the first time in years that we've really seen that. It's been kind of Golden State and Cleveland the last 5 years. But I think this is the best NBA season we've had in ages because it's so wide open. It's so competitive. All the stars are firing on all cylinders, and it's tough to call. And if you're a fan of any of the top teams, you should have the belief that you could go and win it because there's just a lot of talent that we're going to see in the next few weeks, and I'm excited to watch a lot of NBA games because it's going to be wide open. That's all I can tell you. Let's talk about the game against Miami. Another close game.
Yeah, it was really interesting watching this game. Once again, similar to even in the Lakers game, Toronto had a decent point lead, at least a 15-point lead in the third. Once again, there are some issues about obviously Miami coming back in that game, allowing. And that's something the Raptors always have struggled throughout years, is allowing teams to come back. And that's a general thing in basketball that it happens, right? But in terms of the good performances, you really saw, as I said before, Lowry definitely had a good performance. If it weren't for scoring, it was about his assists and his rebounds, as well as the Siakam as well with 22 points. And Fred VanVleet, obviously, from perimeter was excellent. And,
for him.
A career high, 36 points. It was definitely something to really think, it's definitely something interesting that I think everybody's going to be kind of looking forward to now as we're going to the next series, next game against Orlando, as well as against Boston, which are another test. So it's definitely a lot of momentum right now. And I think all Raptors fans should be really excited about where we're going right now.
Yeah, Matthew, before I give you the floor, I'll just say about the Raptors and having the 15-point lead. I just think there's a lot of ebb and flow in basketball. Even the Raptors got off to a great start against the Lakers. They were up 13-2 or something. I forget. I forget exactly what the score was early on. But in basketball, you have a lot of shooters and teams can get in games quickly. But the thing that I felt yesterday, I was telling you guys yesterday about the Leafs game and how I never thought that the Leafs had a threat to score in that third period. Even when Miami came back and took the lead for a brief time, there's no doubt in my mind that the Raptors would find a way to close the game out. That's just what they do. And I have so much faith in the players and the coaching staff that they just get the job done. They know how to win close games. They've won a championship, and outside of Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green, this really is the same unit with additions to the team. Now you have Terrence Davis. OG Anunoby is going to be healthy in the playoffs, hopefully, unless something changes there. So there's a lot of good things going on with the Raptors, and the encouraging thing to me is that they're up 15. Miami has shooters, and you saw Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, Goran Dragic, Kelly Olynyk. He was hitting threes, so it's kind of like Houston. When you hit threes, and when you have 3-point shooters, you're never out of a game. But I don't know, Matthew or Darya, if you felt this way, but there was never a doubt in my mind that the Raptors were going to blow that game. And they didn't. They win tight games, they win close, and they win tough.
I completely agree with you. Like, even when Miami gets close, you still have the faith that Raptors will still come out of that game with a win. And I think, like, the thing about the Raptors is how that you should know is how good they are collectively as a team. Like, you see a lot of teams, they have like these go-to players. They have like the kind of just like the one guy you gotta depend on. I think the amazing thing about Raptors is that even though like Siakam would probably be like the most noble player of the team, it doesn't have it doesn't you don't need him to carry the game. It can be it could be Siakam, it could be Van Vliet as we saw against Miami. It could be Lowry like we saw against Lakers. It's just like a well built system all around that you can kind of depend on any player to like have any great night.
Yeah. And the only thing to be critical about, you could rely on everyone. If there's one player I had to pinpoint, and I had to say, I don't really like when he was on the floor, it's Rondé Hollis Jefferson. He just doesn't give me much confidence. I don't see what he does. He can't shoot. I find he often misses like open layups. Just things that when he's on the floor, kind of when you just need those extra few points, I find that he doesn't get it more often than not.
He also
But
doesn't get that many minutes though.
yeah, exactly. So it's just one of those guys. But everyone else that gets minutes, everyone else that's usually on the floor, I have no issue with. I have full faith that everyone else can do a job, and that's just me being picky, and that's just me pinpointing one guy. Just for what I've seen all year, and I think the Raptors are really the only team that kind of has that problem. And I think most fans usually, anyways, have one or two or even three guys. They say, I don't have much confidence when he's on the floor, or whether he's on the ice, whatever sport we're talking about. But I think that's just credit to the Raptors. If there's only one guy that plays, I don't even know how many minutes he played yesterday. It had to be under 10 though. He was on the floor for that long, and everyone else I have full faith in to do a job. Defensively, as a unit, there's usually no mistakes as a group, and which is what you need if you want to win an NBA championship. And if you're a Raptor fan, I'd be feeling really good because Milwaukee, if it's Toronto Milwaukee, it's going to be a great series. That there's not too much separating them. There really isn't. Outside of maybe Giannis, that is going to be, it could be better than last year. So Raptors fans, gear in. We have a long way to go. There's still 6 games to be played for seeding, but it looks like the Raptors are going to lock up that 2 seed. But we will switch gears and we're going to move on to the NHL playoffs. And it's been a busy schedule. There's been hockey all day, every day. So Matthew, I'll start with you. Let's start with one team. What one team that you've seen? What's the one team that's impressed you the most?
Well, for me, I am going to be biased to my answer as I am a Philadelphia Flyers fan. I think even though it's just a round robin game and in terms it doesn't matter in terms of elimination or anything like that, I think they've proven a lot against Boston. Boston being the number 1 seed, they've easily been like the favorite to kind of come out of the round robin as like one of the top teams. And the fact that Philly beat them, and not just beat them, like they played very well
Yeah,
against
no, it was a good
Boston.
performance from the Flyers for sure.
They've shut down that first line with Bergeron, Marchand, Pastrnak, and I think Alain Vigneault, the coach, has proven that he knows how to make his team deep. He knows how to utilize the fourth line well. Players like Nate Thompson, Mike Raffle, who unfortunately lost the game due to an injury, but I think Philly's proven that they're a really deep team, and like they don't have that players like Bergeron or Marchand to like kind of like carry them, but they have all 4 lines are deep. They're depth in the defense, and Carter Hart has proven that even as a young goalie, he can play well in playoffs.
Philadelphia had a great performance, but the one game I want to talk about is the Colorado game. What are the odds of a guy scoring with 0.1 seconds left in a game to win a playoff game? That's just something you really don't see. And in a playoff game, former Leaf Nazem Kadri, I wish he was doing that for the Leafs instead of being suspended against Boston every single year. But I have a lot of respect for Nazem Kadri as a player. I think that's something that the Leafs are kind of missing. Kind of aggressive guy that's going to get under guys' skin, and a guy that scores goals. He contributes, and I think he's showing his value to a team that actually knows how to win playoff hockey in Colorado. And I think adding Nazem Kadri for that team, as well as they have a lot of talent. Nathan McKinnon, Landeskog, and there's a host of guys on that Avalanche team that can score and win games for you. So Colorado's going to be a threat. What a win they got. You're not going to see many games that end with a goal scored with 0.1 seconds left.
Also, another series that not really took me by surprise in any way, but I think another series we should mention is Jets vs Flames, and that hit on Mark Scheifele. That's a very controversial hit, and like that big debate where not Matt Chuck has done that on purpose.
Yeah, playoff hockey, especially the Wade's come back and no one's really had any game action. It's going to be very edgy. I think is the word I would use. It's going to be very closely contested, and the emotions are going to get high. We've seen it, I think, in all the games. Even if hasn't been a fight or there hasn't been a dirty play, there's been a lot of pushing and shoving. Once the goalie catches it, a lot of shoving in the crease, a lot of little taps on the legs to some of the players. Trying to get under their skin. And it's playoff hockey, so I don't mind it. The Matthew Tkachuk incident, was it dirty? Was it not? It's hard for me to say. I think it was.
Given the player's history, like Matthew Tkachuk,
exactly giving the player's history, and I think he knew what he was doing. I'm pretty sure he knew what he was doing, but again, playoff hockey, will the league let it go? I think they will, and I think why not just give him the benefit of the doubt, because he is an entertainer. And he has value to the games. And if you're a hockey fan, you want to see Matthew Tkachuk playing rather than him sitting on the bench.
I also want to mention Edmonton and Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
I think most people kind of thought Edmonton would kind of take away the series with the way they've been playing, but I think Chicago proved that their experience in playoffs kind of leverages them a little bit. The players like Taves and Kane. But, Connor McDavid came back in the next game, got another hat trick. Like, he played as you expect Connor McDavid to, and that's going to be another close series, I think.
Yeah, I think Connor McDavid and Pastrnak are the two best players in the league. Not much separates them. When Connor McDavid's on, he's on a hat trick in a playoff game. You don't see that very often. And the way he scored the goals, the second goal was an incredible effort. Connor McDavid is a special player, bringing hope to a team and a fan base. I don't know, it doesn't really deserve hope coming from a Toronto Maple Leafs fan. Where's our hope and where's our belief? I think Edmonton and Toronto are two fairly similar teams. Like Austin Matthews is kind of carrying the load for Toronto right now. I know there's a lot of talent on Edmonton. They still got Leon Draisaitl. The question is, are they going to be able to keep it tight at the back? You saw in the first period against Chicago, they gave up 4 goals, and it was a great individual performance by I'm drawing a blank on his name. It was Kubliak. Dennis Kubliak, fantastic play from the rookie. 5 points against Edmonton in his first playoff game, and they're going to be they're going to be a threat for sure. Edmonton is not they're not kind of safe yet. It's 1-1, and I think defensively they're very they're like Toronto. They're susceptible. Pardon me, to just a lazy mistake, a poor mistake. And it was actually Chicago yesterday and Corey Crawford giving up a goal in a big moment. But it's going to be a tight series. I think that one's going to go to the wire. I think that's going to go 5 games. But I think, again, Edmonton will edge that one out. That has been your hockey recap. There's a lot more hockey to be played, and we will for sure be discussing it throughout the weeks to come. We will now switch gears onto the FA Cup final, where Chelsea lost to Arsenal 2-1. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang scored a brace for the Gunners, and they just edged out Chelsea. But the big talking point wasn't even the fact that Arsenal won the FA Cup. It was the fact that Anthony Taylor basically took control of that game, and a lot of instances gifted Arsenal with a lot of calls that should not have gone their way. Footy expert Darya, what do you make of the performance? We'll save Anthony Taylor for last. We'll start with the game itself. What did you make of the game? Because it was a game that Anthony Taylor really took over, and he was the main talking point. But let's talk about everything not Anthony Taylor. just for the time
it's a little, it's funny because that's a little bit hard to do because he took so much of the attention, I guess, away from that final. But in terms of obviously because I'm a neutral, watching this game was going to be kind of interesting to see both sides, both London sides going at it at Wembley. And I have to be honest, generally I thought, especially in the first half, it was quite an even game. I thought both teams didn't actually look at their complete best, if I'm honest, but there wasn't really a deciding factor. We saw a great goal by Pulisic, and also we saw a great goal by Aubameyang. And I felt like things were quite normal until really the second half, where we saw some interesting calls being made. That being said, though, there was obviously a very nice goal by Aubameyang, and that was especially his second goal I'm talking, even though there's some controversy to the lead up of that goal. I thought it was an excellent strike. And Arsenal, whether it was because of the ref or however it was, they got a win over one of their bitter rivals. And obviously there's a lot of controversy surrounding that. So it's somewhat tainted in some ways, but I'm sure a lot of Arsenal fans will not care.
Yeah, well, Arsenal fans, I think, are some of the most clueless fan base in the world. Not all of them, but if you're a soccer fan, you most likely are on Twitter. They're celebrating like they won the Champions League. Frankly, I don't think even Liverpool fans celebrated the fact that they won the Premier League or Champions League harder than the fact that Arsenal celebrated the FA Cup over the last few days. It's a shameless fan base, but Chelsea didn't play great. I'm not going to sit here and tell you as a Chelsea fan that they played great, because they didn't. I think after they scored the goal, even in the first half, just, lack of intensity, lack of will, I would say. And just, the whole game slowed down, and I think they already won. Maybe it felt like some of them already won the game, even when they didn't. I'm just going to point out a few Chelsea players that were just shocking. Jorginho did nothing throughout the 90 minutes. He just sat there running around like a headless donkey for 90 minutes, just added absolutely nothing to the game. I mean, he looked lost, and Arsenal just played him perfectly. They passed around, and Jorginho just looked non-existent. Even his pass, everything was backwards or sideways. I'm really hoping that the last I've seen Jorginho, nothing against the person himself, and I'm sure he's a lovely guy, but in the Premier League, and the way Lampard wants to play, Jorginho is just not it. If Sarri wants him for 50 mil, I think that's a bargain, because frankly, he's not worth that in the Premier League. Just not a very good player, and I thought he had one of his worst performances in the Chelsea kit, and it happened to be in an FA Cup final. The other player that I'll point out who had a really poor game, Antonio Rudiger, on the second goal. Like, I don't know what you're doing. Hector Bellerin just threw his legs, ran past him like he was a cardboard cutout. It looked like a training exercise when Bellerin just skated by him. Rudiger, to me, just can make so many mistakes. Just doesn't do much well. He doesn't do a lot of things well. He just likes to shout a lot and demand a lot. And frankly, he makes a lot of the mistakes himself. The day he leaves Chelsea Football Club will be one of the happiest days of my life. It's because every time he's on the pitch, I think the other team's going to concede, just like Kepa. I have no confidence when he plays, and there's a reason that Chelsea has resorted to a 3 like Arsenal. It's because Lampard and Arteta don't trust their center backs to play in a 2, so they give them extra cover, and they've played better defensively. But the reason is they need the extra cover. Otherwise, both coaches know that there's a potential for a mistake at any moment. With that being said, let's move on to the performance of none other than Anthony Taylor. I'll let you start, because I'll go in on him in a second, but I'll let you start. What decisions do you think he got wrong, or what are the main decisions, if you had to pinpoint 3 that really were the obvious ones that should not have been made?
Well, the thing about this game, as I said, it was very much a different half. I felt in the second half, I felt like for sure the Aubameyang goal, the lead up to that goal, was definitely, there was a foul involved, and not just me being, obviously I'm biased when I say this, but like it really was the case. And I do also think that the Kovacic yellow card. The funny thing about that one, by the way, I was watching that game and I remember seeing it live. And I really was thinking, oh, well, okay, it's a little bit of a cheap foul here, but all right, I don't know about a yellow card. But then I saw it over again, and I already knew something was like up, and there was no foul in that. That's the thing about Anthony Taylor. I felt like as soon as one decision went wrong for him, I felt like it became a domino effect. There's a multiple, and I felt like it was one of those performances as a ref that you kind of just lost a little bit of your head in a sense. And there's also, of course, there was a foul just outside the box. I believe it was Pedro.
That's
Just
having the game,
general,
yeah.
yeah. But in saying that, I don't even think this is just about Anthony Taylor. I feel like this is a bigger conversation about the refereeing in general. I feel, especially in England. And for the first time, I feel the inclusion of something such as VAR, where it could have been used, I feel, in a lot of these circumstances, especially with the whole Martinez handball. I felt like that's something they should have at least addressed. And I remember watching the footage, and sorry, I didn't even see the replay of when it actually happened. I had to find screenshots on Twitter or such, or had to watch a video again to find out. But I think that just kind of says it all about this final. I feel like Anthony Taylor's influence, unfortunately, kind of really changed the game for both sides. And that's honestly really unfortunate, because it wasn't even game to start. And there were some great moments, and especially with Pulisic's goal and everything. So yeah, it was really unfortunate.
I'll go on my rant starting right now. Starting with Anthony Taylor. In a league where the refs are one of the worst for the top 5 leagues, I think Anthony Taylor is the worst out of all of them, which I think is saying a lot. Frankly, I'd be shipping him off in a boat. Maybe we should be reffing in Tibet or some other country where there's no other people. That's a standard, and that's a quality he gives you. It reminds me of the MLS referee, Toledo, whatever they call him, the Tornado, I think is his nickname. I'm not sure what his full name, El Tornado, whatever that guy's name is. Anthony Taylor's a shocking referee. And it's funny. I think every time he plays Chelsea, he just gives some crazy decision against them. The one the FA Cup 3 years ago where Alexis Sanchez, it was a clear handball in the build-up, and I think it was Oxlade-Chamberlain who was offside. At first, it's no goal. Then he goes to the linesman, and they give it a goal. One of the strange decisions I've seen, where it's clearly a handball. Alexis' hands are right in front of him. The ball clearly touches his hands. And at first, they called a no goal, and they overturned that. But that's 3 years ago. Also, Victor Moses got a red card in that game for diving. It wasn't even a dive. But even this season, Anthony Taylor against Manchester United, Harry Maguire, you could argue should have been sent off for kicking out at Michy Batshuayi. That was even the worst call in that game. The worst call in the game was when Chelsea scored to tie that game at 1-1, and he gave a foul against Azpilicueta because he was shoved into Brandon Williams. I think we watched that game together, actually, so you and know exactly what I'm talking about. It's just that was a horrible decision, and just it influenced the game. Frankly, if you look at how the end of how the season turned out, the decision really didn't matter, as we finished level in points and both finished in a Champions League position. But just decisions like that, and then even against Spurs, another game we watched together, where Marcus Alonso was just battered. I'm not sure if it was Lloris or Gazzaniga, whoever was in net. And I think it was Gazzaniga who basically stuck his boot out and kicked him in the chest. And he gave a foul against Alonso, and it was until VAR overturned it, because that was one of the most obvious penalties I've ever seen. But the fact that Anthony Taylor gave that a free kick against Chelsea, there's so many countless decisions. There is hundreds of decisions I could think of that Anthony Taylor's messed up in just big games against Chelsea. If I see that guy ever ref a Chelsea game, I'm not even going to watch, because it's not worth my blood pressure and my heart rate to even watch that guy referee a game. Frankly, he's not Premier League level. He's not even the bottom tier league levels. I would throw him even below the championship. He doesn't, I'd take away his referee license. Anthony Taylor is just a shocking referee. He makes me sick to my stomach that I even have to imagine him reffing another game for any team in the Premier League next year. And the fact that he's the first ref in 120 years to ref 2 FA Cup finals, that's the guy who's just gotten decisions wrong, multiple, at least 5 decisions wrong in both of those finals, and it happened to go against Chelsea. That makes my blood boil as a Chelsea fan. But I haven't even talked about the decisions he got wrong this game. Even the penalty, the first penalty from Aubameyang, the questionable one, because maybe Aspi started to foul him when he was outside the box. But I think that's the only decision you could say maybe he got right. But, if, you could say a penalty was the right decision in that case. It may have been 50-50, but I can give it to him because Azpilicueta was fouling him inside the box. And it was a yellow card because you can't give a straight red card anymore if it's a penalty. The FA eliminated that double whammy rule last year. The Kovacic, the first yellow wasn't a yellow card. The second yellow card he received wasn't even a foul. The fact that when Emi Martinez handled the ball out, where it appeared to be outside the box, we've both seen images on Twitter where it looks maybe he did, and then there's an image where it looks like his hands were in the box. Frankly, I have to believe that it should have been a red card and he handled outside the box because I didn't see a replay of that. And the only thing I could think of is the game was fixed. Because if you're not going to show a replay of that and the VAR check was 10 seconds long, there is no way you could get a conclusive angle of that. And there's no way that you could tell me definitively that he handled it inside the box. So I don't know what image Sky Sports released after the game where it showed where maybe the ball was, inside the box where he caught it. Because frankly, there was no replay during the game, which is the most shocking thing. A game of that magnitude and a decision which would define the game clearly, and not even a replay for that, but you're willing to send Kovacic off. Again, for 2 yellow cards that weren't even yellow cards. The second one wasn't even a foul on Kovacic. Just disgusting display of refereeing. It's a cup final, and for it to end like that, and for it to be decided like that. If Chelsea loses fair and square, I'm fine with it. I can live with it. A game's a game. You're not going to win every game, but the fact that the game was decided by the referee in a cup final, they had to earn getting into the final. They beat Liverpool. They beat Leicester. They beat Manchester United in the semis. It wasn't easy for them to get the finals, and for them to basically lose a trophy because the referee decided that the game was all about him instead of about the players on the pitch. That's what pisses me off the most, and that's what I'm going to be mad at. I'm not even going to be mad that Chelsea weren't at their best because you're not going to be at your best for every game. But the fact is, when the referee decides to take over a game, even if you're an Arsenal fan, I don't know how you're happy about that because the game was decided by Anthony Taylor. None of your players decided that game. It was all about the ref. So congrats to Arsenal. But for any Arsenal fan that wants to go overboard with their celebrations, just remember they're going to be in the Europa League for the 4th year in a row. And the game that could have put you guys in the Champions League last year was the one that Eden Hazard basically ended your club on his final day in Chelsea uniform, scoring the brace. And that was his last game before going to Real Madrid. So any Arsenal fan that wants to over-celebrate that game, just remember we kicked your guys' ass 4-1 in Baku. And frankly, I value European trophies over FA Cup. So again, congrats to Arsenal because Chelsea weren't at it. But Anthony Taylor, I'm hoping to never see your bald head again because you rub me the wrong way. And that is my rant about the FA Cup. Darya, do you have any final words?
All I can say is that I completely get the frustrations, especially as a Chelsea fan. And I do really think that this is a topic of conversation that I think people need to talk about the officiating in England. I feel like it's come to a point where VAR officiating with with people in finals like this, having this opportunity, they need to do better. They need to do better, and it's a shame, to be honest with you, that this season in itself, when it comes to VAR and to officiating, has been below par. I think is an understatement, really. But yeah, I'm hoping that things go a little bit better. They get a bit better there, and obviously Arsenal will enjoy this win as much as they can. But as you said, there is a lot to work for them. I mean, this is just a part of the. Yeah, there's a little bit of it.
Yeah, no, there's really a lot that Arsenal has to improve on. The whole season they were poor. It's good for them that they won the FA Cup because that's kind of their shining moment of the year. Arsenal have a long way to go, and I think they're getting ahead of themselves. I think that this is kind of just, we won the FA Cup. Everyone's going to want to come to Arsenal because, frankly, especially with the coronavirus and the money that they're going to have, I don't know who they're really going to bring in. They spent a lot of money last summer, an unorthodox amount of money. Pepe for 72 mil, that was a world record. Signing Kieran Tierney cost them 20 mil. I forget. Ceballos came in. as a loan, but they may want to buy him this year. He may cost 20 to 30 million. I know they bought a few more guys. David Luiz cost them 8 mil. Am I forgetting anyone else that they bought? Because I know they brought 4 or 5 players in, but they spent a lot of money, and their board tends to not spend a lot of money, and especially with the coronavirus, they've said that they're short on money, so they have a lot of areas that need reinforcement, setting with the back. But they're gonna have to, replace Ozil, and they're gonna have to get rid of him because he hasn't played in a few months for them, and he clearly wants to go, and he's clearly out of touch with Arteta. And if they don't get rid of him, he's going to be costing them $300,000 per week. So until they get rid of that contract, that's $18 million a year. I mean, that's a lot of money that could be going into another signing. So the fact is, Arsenal have a long way to go. But I will finish off, as this is the last time we may be speaking about footy for a while. In the Premier League, VAR isn't the problem. People are saying, VAR is ruining the game. And VAR isn't the one thing that VAR has gone wrong this year. The way the FAs use it is the offsides. With these 1 millimeter decisions, you can't know exactly from the exact moment the ball leaves the feet. It's just impossible. Technology isn't that good. And if it's a millimeter offside, or half a nothing offside, and leave the call, that's the one thing I haven't liked about VAR. If it's obviously offside, then I have no issue with it with it going the other way. But VAR has taken so many offside goals off the board where it's been just millimeters, and you really can't even tell. And they're making these lines, and fans already know before the goal happens. It's VAR strikes again. But the one thing that VAR has exposed is how bad the referees in England are, because the fact is, us at home, the fans, can usually agree on decisions, and can usually say, this should be a penalty, this should be a red card. And frankly, even with that technology, the FA still managed to get more than half the decisions wrong. And when there's millions of dollars on the line every single game, it's really shocking how bad the fishing is, and how the standard of the refereeing is so bad. When the viewers at home usually can agree on a decision, and the FA still manages to get it wrong. But we will switch gears and move on to our final topic, which is the MLB. And we're not going to talk about baseball. We're just going to talk about COVID-19 and how that has affected a lot of the games. And Darya, I'll ask you quickly, do they finish the season, or how long does the season last? Because it's not looking like it's going to be not looking like it's going to be a long while after we finish this podcast. It could be very short.
It's honestly really embarrassing. I mean, the fact that this is already a shortened season, and I'm hearing that, I think it's almost every day now that there's at least one game postponed.
Yeah, there's been multiple. There's multiple games postponed per day. Over the weekend, it was Toronto, Philly that was postponed. I think the St. Louis series, after they had 14 positive cases, I think that was postponed. St. Louis, Detroit was the series. St. Louis, Detroit was canceled last night. St. Louis, Milwaukee was canceled over the weekend. And then Washington and Washington, Miami as well. The one today that is postponed is there's a few games postponed. Philadelphia and the Yankees are postponed. Philadelphia and the Marlins, I don't know. I'm just reading off the Score Mobile, the games that are. So I think it was supposed to be. I don't know what's going on in baseball. All I know is that Rob Manfred, you are the biggest loser in sports right now.
It's a joke.
You've overtaken, in my opinion, Roger Goodell as the worst commissioner in sports. I'm not even going to mention what you did by giving the Astros a free pass for blatantly cheating and winning a World Series. I'm not going to talk about the lack of punishment that was told out to them, but it was clear from the offset that this is going to fail. It took way too long to get going, a shortened season, then everyone's traveling. The coronavirus was just bound to find some of these teams, and it has. Miami and St. Louis hit the hardest. I think they both had. I think it was 14, and St. Louis could be growing. I don't think that's even the final numbers. So I don't give him much time. Rob Manfred said he plans on finishing the season. I really don't think he's going to finish the month. I give it another 3-4 weeks because I think they have the power to delay it as much as possible, and as long as you have enough games going on, there's enough. You're always gonna have fans watching the games anyways, and it's all about money. But there's just no way that it goes on for that long, and I think. If there's more cases, especially next week or two, you're going to see more players dropping out. People have families, people have loved ones at home. They don't want to pass it on to them. It's not all about baseball. And if they can't protect their players, and I see no reason why they should play and why they'd want to play. And if any of them want to step out or any of them want to drop out of the season, I give them, the full benefit of doing so, because it's just been an absolute mess from the MLB from day one. And it's continued on, and it's continued to today. And I just don't see it getting better.
It's the worst part about this is that a lot of these players are knowing what's going on. And I know for sure it was, I believe, the Marlins and the Phillies that we hear in reports that they had been going to casinos and going to bars. And then a few days later, they end up being sick. And I heard, I believe it was the Phillies that had almost 20 players infected with COVID-19, and it's quite amazing to me that this is still happening, and there's and the precautions and all this was supposed to be taken into effect. I have to believe that this is an experiment right now that is failing miserably. And I really don't know what they're going to do now. I agree with you. I don't think this can keep going. Manfred's going to completely defend it and say, I believe his words were, it's embarrassing what the players are doing, but it's also a lot of other stuff as well. I mean,
yeah, Manfred's a little bit of a hypocrite, isn't he? It's
is.
embarrassing what they're in. But you know what? If they're allowed to travel and there's no, I haven't seen any restrictions on the player. So, I mean, they have every right to do what they want. Obviously, you're not protecting their health, so why should they protect you and your image? Rob Manfred needs to take a real close, hard look in the mirror.
Honestly, it's quite embarrassing all around for the MLB, and I really do think the NFL, particularly which are coming up, should be taking lessons from this. They will be watching this closely these last few months and seeing what they can do better. And I do feel like in terms of travel restrictions and all that, like the NBA and NHL, there can be certain elements maybe implemented there in terms of not having to travel too much. But it's really sad because I was quite excited for this season, and I really do think it's just a matter of time that the MLB season is canceled. Much to the disagreement that Manfred has about doing it, it's coming to a point where you're seeing other sports being affected, particularly football. And I really do think they need to do better at that. And if this doesn't end soon, this could end really, really awful for not just MLB but other football as well.
Yeah, hopefully Roger Goodell has a very close eye on what's going on in the MLB, and hopefully he's taking lessons because it's coming up fast. I think it was like last week. It's 50 days till the season starts. Time flies, so it's coming up quicker than people realize. It's just over a month away until we see potential NFL football. So hopefully Roger Goodell and his NFL team get a plan in place. This has been another episode of 5-5 Sports. Thank you guys all for listening. I hope you guys are enjoying the podcast. If you guys have any advice, if you guys have any comments, just leave them. We love hearing from you guys. We love knowing what you guys think. We'll be on Spotify, as I said yesterday, very soon, in the next, I think, 2 or 3 weeks. So keep tuned for that. And if you guys like it, tell a friend, tell your mother, tell your grandmother. It doesn't matter, sports is for everyone. So the more people that like us, the better. But this has been an episode of 5-5 Sports. I am your host, Evan Rootenberg. Matthew Choi has been alongside me, and footy expert Darya Amirshahi. Thank you guys both for joining me again. And we will see you guys on next week's episode. Take care.
You're listening.
Bye-bye.